This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I'm your host, Noah Taluki, and on today's episode, folks, the Lions are back in training camp. Veterans reporting on Tuesday. I'll break down a couple of key position battles to look out for in training camp, and also some big news from Green Bay. The quarterback, number 12, is back. I'll talk a little bit about Aaron Rodgers and what's going on, the drama in Green Bay as well. But hopefully everybody had a great weekend out there. I definitely did. You know, I got some golfing on my off day, and I was able to go to the beach and all that on Lake Erie, and it was really fun. And I was really happy I was able to take that all in. And I hadn't played golf in a couple weeks, but I found a nice course. It was cheap too, and I was able to get some swings in, and I had a couple nice shots, had a couple shanks, you know, as the typical amateur golfers. But overall, it was pretty fun, and I'm really happy that I was able to go out, because it's been a while. So I've been really busy with work and all that. But all right, so it's exciting. You know, man, did training camp sneak up on us? I mean, just a couple weeks ago, we were talking about so many other things, and with all kinds of different Tigers, all that, and then all of a sudden, NFL just sneaking up on us. And but I gotta say, it's always exciting for me in Lions training camp. I have a long-standing tradition of going to Lions training camp as a fan every year. I've been doing it since 2010, when I was 11 or 12 years old. And I remember my first training camp, I actually got to meet Roger Goodell. And it's funny because, you know, he goes around and does all 32 NFL teams, you know. And so training camp was a lot different back then. You know, you were able to, it was kind of like a first come, first serve, you know, that kind of thing. Guys would be at tables, and if you got in line first, you were able to get their autographs, all that. Kind of a little bit of a similar situation with Roger Goodell, and I was able to get his autograph on a ball. And if I had a cell phone back then or a camera, I would have gotten a picture with him. But it was still cool. I still have that autograph. It's funny because I had a football, and you know how all those NFL footballs, they have the automatic signature on there that's stamped on there. It's funny, he took my ball and he saw his signature. He's like, "Hey, I already signed it." I always think about that sometimes, especially when training camp comes around. Then he actually signed his real signature in a lot bigger handwriting, but it was funny. Every time Lions training camp comes around, I always think of that story. So hold on, I mean, who knows? Maybe Roger Goodell will be there the one day I'm there. So it'll be interesting to see. I still have to figure out which days. I know that, you know, fans are allowed back, and they're having the big day at Ford Field. That's I've never gone to that practice, but I've heard it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like a big family zone. They, you know, the rookies, all that, get to experience Ford Field for the first time, all that. So definitely exciting stuff, and it gets me fired up. You know, I don't care about the Lions being bad or they're not going to win many games. It's just, football's back. That's why I'm always excited about training camp every year. Football's back. The Lions are back. My favorite team. You know, that's my philosophy on it. And this year also, you don't have to get shuttled in. You know, in the past, you had to get shuttled in. You had to park at Fairlane Mall in Dearborn, shuttle you in. Now you can park around in the business district, some of those offices, and you can walk up there. So it's going to be a lot easier for sure. But like I said, I have not figured it out. I'll let you guys know when I'll be there, but and get to experience it for myself. But we'll get into some position battles a little bit later on, because I don't want to do a whole position by position preview or guys on the bubble. Not yet. We gotta look at training camp first and see how these guys are progressing, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. But a couple position battles, because sometimes people are like, well, what do I pay attention to in training camp? I think the position battles are very key. That's for sure. All right. So before I begin with the Lions, I do want to mention something about Aaron Rodgers. Now, you know, a long time ago, there was a lot of talk that Aaron Rodgers will not be back in Green Bay. A lot of people thought maybe he's going to the Broncos. They need a quarterback. You know, they have a decent defense. At least there's something there for Aaron Rodgers. But now there's a picture, and Aaron Rodgers is back. There's a picture of him walking in all California cool with the slick back hair, the long hair, the cool shades, he had the Office t-shirt on with the Kevin from Dunder Mifflin, the Office show. My parents love that show. I'm not really into it much. But he's walking in all California cool. I'm back. I'm ready to go. It just, as a Lions fan, it makes me a little upset because this Green Bay team is a lot different without Aaron Rodgers. If he's going to be back, those are two critical games. And I know we've beaten Aaron Rodgers before, when he's played, because a lot of times when we beat the Packers, it's mostly, with a backup, with some backup quarterbacks in. We've beaten him a handful of times, but not much. But like I said, it's just a very different game when he's not in the lineup for Green Bay. Now all of a sudden he's back, but he's staging it like a last dance kind of thing. It's like this Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen. We're gonna walk out of the Bulls. We're gonna win, and then we're gonna walk out, and it's just it made me laugh when I heard about this last dance thing with Aaron Rodgers. It just makes me it just, as a Lions fan, it's just not good. But however, I do want to mention a little bit more. So, their backup is Jordan Love. And this is a guy that was picked in the first round last year. A guy with a lot of upside. Matt LaFleur has come out and I think he really likes Jordan Love. And he wants to give him a chance. So it's sort of like a little bit of a dilemma with Favre and when Aaron Rodgers was, his rookie year. You draft this quarterback in the first round, but you already have a legend. It's a very, very tough situation. Now, it seemed like Aaron Rodgers wanted out, go to another team, give Jordan Love his chance. I wonder if this is a deal, and if you want to know more information about this, I really encourage you to listen to our good friend Matt Derry and his podcast, The Locked On Lions. He did a interview with the Locked On Packers host. I can't remember his name, but they went into a lot of detail about this Aaron Rodgers situation, and he's got a lot of good information on there. So I'd encourage you to check that out, Locked On Lions with the Locked On Packers host. But it's sort of a situation where give Aaron what he wants, one last chance, see if they can win a Super Bowl. I mean, because really that's their ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl at this point with Rodgers. Get him one more ring. And then maybe if he wants to come back and defend the title, go ahead. But if not, let him go. He's free to sign with another team. We'll give Jordan Love the chance. I wonder if that was the Packers' philosophy the whole time, and especially what it is right now. I wonder if there was a disagreement between the organization with regards to the quarterback position. Did they want to? Maybe Rodgers was upset. There was something going on, how it was handled, and then because maybe Jordan Love was the guy that was supposed to be it for this year, but then they come to terms over the summer. I think it's really fascinating just to think about some of these details with Aaron Rodgers. But like I said, go on Locked On Lions. There's a lot more detail in it, but just something I thought was interesting to bring up. But Aaron Rodgers talking about the back nine of his career a few years ago, and he's back in the green and yellow, one of the greatest NFL franchises of all time. A first ballot Hall of Famer is back. So we'll have to see Monday night, week 2, Lions at Packers at Lambeau Field. At least we don't have to go there in the wintertime when it's nice and cold and fans with their icicles on their hats and all that. But I'm definitely curious to see how this Aaron Rodgers situation is going to escalate, and it looks like they're at peace right now. So maybe it'll be one more year. If they don't win, maybe he'll stay. But I personally, I think at this point it's 1 year and it's over. He's going to go somewhere else to try to chase a ring. Who knows where? That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But something interesting to look at for sure. All right, so we're getting into Lions training camp. The rookies reported a few days ago, but the veterans reported on Tuesday. So everyone's back. Everyone's in the building. First-year head coach Dan Campbell, of course, with all of the former players that he has as assistants. Now, a lot of great experience there, but this is a team, and we could go all day about rankings and how Dan Campbell was 31st out of 32 NFL coaches, in the NFL and blah, blah, blah. It's the offseason. I mean, that's why all this talk dominates. I don't want to get into that. Do I think the 31st ranking was too low for Dan Campbell? Of course I do. But I don't want to waste anybody's time talking about that. I want to talk about some of the relevant position battles that are going on with this Lions team. Now, like I said, we could do a whole position-by-position thing. I don't think that's necessary. Do I need to do a position-by-position breakdown on Jared Goff? Oh, yeah, there's a big battle with Jared Goff and David Blau. No. All right, so I do want to get into a little bit of the wide receivers. And this is a position that has been a strength for the Lions for the past decade. You think you go all the way back to the prime of Calvin Johnson when he had Nate Burleson, when there were other guys on that roster. I mean, there was Titus Young for a little bit. Then a little bit later, you had Golden Tate, who had Golden Tate and Calvin. What a dynamic duo that was. Then after Calvin retires, you get Marvin Jones. Then you draft Kenny Golladay, and he turns out to be a pretty good receiver. So over the years, the past decade especially, the position of wide receiver has always been a strength for the Lions. This year, it's very different. This is a lot of unproven guys on this roster right now at the wide receiver position because, of course, Kenny Golladay is gone, got a big contract with the Giants. Marvin Jones moved on to Jacksonville. Danny Amendola, I mean, who knows if he's even in the league anymore? I mean, the one guy that has played for this team before, that is probably going to be in the mix is Quintez Cephas, and he just had 1 year last year. I'm not sure about guys like Victor Bolden or Tom Kennedy, Chad Hansen, Damian Ratley. I don't know about those guys, but some of these new acquisitions that they made at wide receiver, Brashad Perriman, his father Brett played for the Lions in the 90s with Herman Moore, Johnny Morton, that whole wide receiver cast. Speaking of wide receivers, those 90s Lions, they had the heck of a receiver tandem there. Tyrell Williams, got him from the Raiders. Khalif Raymond, sort of a slot receiver from Tennessee. Those are the three projected starting receivers right now, according to ourlads.com. They do a lot of good work with NFL depth charts. But some of the other guys, and we talked about him before on the podcast, a guy that I really think could make an impact for the Lions this year, especially with the lack of depth at wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the rookie from USC, a guy with great hands and some good speed too, and a guy that can really, really run routes well. And as a rookie receiver, they come in kind of unpolished with all that, but this is a guy that had it when he was at USC. That's really, really good news for a Lions team that is in need of a lot of receivers. I bet by the end of the season, St. Brown works his way into the starting lineup somehow. But this is... I wish the Lions had a stronger receiving core, of course. However, I think the philosophy with Dan Campbell entering training camp, at least for right now, is Detroit's got a great offensive line. You know that. I mean, according to a lot of rankings, it's a top 15 in all football. Taylor Decker at left tackle, Jonah Jackson left guard, Frank Ragnow at center, probably Vaitai at right guard, and Penei Sewell at right tackle. Already a top 15 when you add Sewell into the mix since he's a rookie. I think the philosophy here, especially with Jared Goff being the quarterback, a guy that, is okay. I'm not saying he's amazing, but a guy that can throw it when they need to throw it. But I think the Lions are really going to try to run the football a lot this year. I do. Because, DeAndre Swift is a budding star, I think. I think he had a great rookie year. I mean, were there ups and downs? Of course. He missed a couple games. He had a concussion. I think he was ill one game, something like that. Missed 3 or 4 games. But a guy that has a lot of potential. When you look at the offensive line on this team, this is a nice group of guys. And what has Detroit struggled with since Barry Sanders running the football? They actually have an offensive line now that can get a push up front, hopefully. Some veterans on that team now. Taylor Decker, been in the league, 6 years, 5-6 years. And Rag now entering his 4th year, Pro Bowler now. Sewell, the best offensive lineman in the draft. Add T.J. Hockenson in the mix as a blocker. I mean, you could see a decent run game this year. And when I mentioned the wide receivers, I took T.J. Hockenson out on purpose because, obviously he's a tight end. But he's definitely a receiving threat that Jared Goff can lean on for sure. At least the Lions have one, solid weapon. And I expect T.J. to get a lot more targets this year than he's had his first 2 years. Kept saying last year they need to target him more. They can't just target him 4 or 5 times a game. And I know he made the Pro Bowl. There were some guys like George Kittle that were hurt and all that. I expect a monster year from T.J. Hockenson. I really do. Also, a couple other battles. I'm really interested about the defensive line battle. This has been a weakness for the Lions the last couple years. A team, under Matt Patricia trying to play different schemes, and they're trying to play the Patriots scheme, and it's just not working. You need certain guys in that scheme, and it just didn't work. So the Lions probably going with that 3-4 defense again. You look at guys like Trey Flowers, Michael Brockers, the new addition from the Rams, who I think could have a very good season in the middle. John Pennicini, who flashed some potential at nose tackle last year, the 7th round pick from Utah. He's in the mix. Romeo Okwara, who the Lions just gave a big contract to from Notre Dame. 10-sack season. And then you look at the rookies. You look at Levi Onwuzurike from Washington. Aleem McNeil, kind of like a very athletic defensive tackle, nose tackle from NC State. These are guys that, especially, their first 3 picks in the draft were offensive, defensive linemen. It's obvious that the focal point of this team is the Lions. Because what's the old adage in the NFL? You win up front. And I really believe that this is in the right steps. Now, am I saying the Lions are going to make the playoffs and all that? No, but there's baby steps here. I think that this year is kind of a little bit of a developmental year to see what we have, because there's so much, there's a lot of transition. Obviously, Matthew Stafford gone, new head coach, a lot of new players, especially in the receiver room. So, and on the line, I think with the right scheme, and Aaron Glenn, hopefully he, has the right scheme for these guys. I really hope that this is the scheme that will get penetration up front, because the Lions, what do they struggle to do? They struggle to blitz. They played man coverage all the time, seemingly, and they could not really get to the quarterback. So addressing these needs in the offseason, Michael Brockers signing, McNeil, Onwuzurike, even Trey Flowers. I mean, he was hurt a lot last year. I mean, you gave him a big contract under Bob Quinn. Maybe he's got something a little bit left in the tank. I'm not willing to give up on Trey Flowers just yet. I'm going to see what he can do. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. So look out in the training camp for the battle with the defensive line. I think it'll be interesting to see what that combination is going to be up front, and who they're going to switch in and all that. Jared Davis gone from linebacker. I'm just looking up and down the list. Jelani Tavai. That's another player to look out for, Jelani, because if you remember a couple years ago when the Lions drafted him in the 2nd round out of Hawaii, this is a guy that, a lot of guys had a 4th, 5th round grade on. And since Jared Davis is gone, the Lions decided not to release him. They're going to give him another chance. They're going to see, how he does at the middle linebacker position. Because by my accounts, seemingly he did a little bit better as a middle linebacker than he did. I think the Lions were trying to play him as an outside linebacker. So if he could be the starting middle linebacker for the Lions, and he struggles in pass coverage, but we'll see how this scheme and how it fits, Tavai. And obviously there's still Jamie Collins as well coming off the edge. So that'll be interesting to see for sure. And lastly, I want to go into the defensive backs. And there's a couple battles there. I'm really curious to see two guys, Jeff Okuda and Ifeatu Melifonwu, both corners, both young. I would love to see how Jeff Okuda responds after last year. Jeff Okuda, the third overall pick in the 2020 draft, a guy that seemed completely lost out there on the field. And this is a guy out of college. I was watching a couple of videos on him with some breakdowns. I mean, this is a guy that was a shut-down corner. I mean, you put him on an island. Teams would literally put him one-on-one. No linebacker help over the middle. And, it's tough because his first couple games, he was going up against Devontae Adams, Adam Thielen. I mean, these guys are Pro Bowl receivers in the NFL, and he had to go up against them. Tough, rude awakening. However, I think that, he opened up about his mental health a lot over the offseason, and, he's trying to have the right state of mind and all that, but hopefully, he's aware of this, and he's able to come back strong because, after a bad, he showed some flashes here and there, but, overall he struggled, I thought, and he had surgery over the offseason and all that. A guy that really needs to be in the right state of mind, especially coming year two. There's a lot of pressure on him, obviously, but, he can't be phased, and he's a guy with a great work ethic that I've heard, and a guy that really needs to make an impact for this team. Him and Amani Aruarie on the other side, another guy that showed potential. I want to see what these guys can do with a new scheme, a new system. Wiping clean of all the Matt Patricia, that defense, that Patriot way, wiping clean of all that, and seeing how these guys respond to a different scheme. Now, do we know exactly what the scheme is? I mean, it looks like it's going to be a 3-4. I'd love to see some of the other problems from last year, see if they can fix those. Obviously, they brought some new guys in. And I do want to mention a little bit about Ifeatu Melifonwu, the rookie corner from Syracuse, guy that the Lions drafted in, I believe, the fourth round, from Syracuse. And he's a tall, lanky corner, a guy with some speed, great closing ability. This is a guy that I really expect to make it into the starting rotation for the Lions. But I would love to see him get a lot of reps as well. And we'll see what happens with Melifonwu. Because this is, corners really struggled last year for the Lions. They've struggled under Matt Patricia. So they haven't had that true corner really since Slay left. So, like I said, with this different defensive scheme, wiping clean, all about developmental. You got to develop. Now, you never know. I mean, teams in the NFL have surprised before. But, a lot of people are saying, 3-4 wins. I don't see it. I think there's a little more talent on this team than some people realize. I don't think there's zero talent. I think there's some players that could perform this year. Plus, you got to remember, there's a lot of guys on this team with a chip on their shoulder. Guys that have been kind of cast away from other teams, signed with the Lions. A new coach that really, feeds off that energy with these guys and really trying to build and establish a culture. I could see a lot of guys, that are really, really serious about this year. And I'm excited to see it. We'll break down more of Lions training camp next week. I know it's just getting underway, but a couple of key position battles and some players to look out for training camp. Like I said, the wide receivers, for sure. The defensive line, Jelani Tavai and some of the cornerbacks as well. I think those are the key players to look out for in the next week or so for training camp. But if anyone's listening, hopefully maybe someone will be down at a Lions training camp on July 31st. That's the first day of that the fans can go to. I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe that's a season ticket holder only practice, because they have a couple of those every year where it's just season ticket holders. But I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I'll let you guys know for sure if I go and what my experience is like. And it's a little different every year. Training camp from a fan perspective is different, a little logistically different every year. But really looking forward to seeing what they can do this year. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter. Also, check out all the other content that's available. John Macron doing a great job with SI Lions in his Doc and Jock podcast. Make sure to check out SI Lions for all the latest Lions training camp updates and all that. And also our good friend Matt Derry on his Locked On podcast. And also Michigan football coming back. Michigan podcast with Steve Dace, a really, really good podcast that he helps out with Mark Rodgers, the voice of college football, he calls it. So make sure to check that out as well. The Fan Report, they always do a lot of great stuff. I know they're talking a lot of Pistons lately with the NBA draft coming up. And, of course, the wrestling podcast and all that. A lot of fun stuff with Adam, the Jock Strozinski. But thanks again, folks, for tuning in as always. And we'll hear from you next week only on Open Mic Night.